Look at that. That, my friends, is prime rib. Not quite rare, medium rare. If you don't like that, you're either vegetarian or I don't know what, because that's the way you want prime rib. I got this great technique. Let's make it right now. You're going to like this. So, of course, the first thing we're going to need is a roast. I've got this about 2.5 to 3 pounder that I got at the store. The recipe calls for a 5 to 7 pound. I didn't have that kind of money to buy that big of a roast, and we didn't need one, so I had to modify it just a little bit to make it work. Well, the first thing we're going to do is pour out equal amounts of salt and pepper. It's probably like a teaspoon each. And mix it all around, because we're going to do some dusting on the roast. Let's just get her in a position here. We're going to start salt and peppering her up on all sides. I came across this recipe. I've always had a hard time with prime rib for some reason. I can never get it to work out right. I've tried, and I was kind of giving up on it. I saw this, and I thought, I can do it. It's not hard directions. It's going to cost me one roast if it never works out. So here we are. This is the second time. I have tried it just to make sure it's going to work. So you're lightly salt and peppering all sides. And of course, you do it to your taste, right? You don't need to go nuts on the salt and pepper. It's going to get a lot more spices down the road. And we're just sprinkling it on. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. There, that's about all of it. Like I said, about a teaspoon each should work. And we just rub her all in like that, and there we go. Now, we're going to cover this up, because it's going to go in the fridge for at least 3 hours. I'm just doing this overnight, because if I had to put this in the fridge for 3 hours and then use all the cooking time, it's going to be like late tonight before I can eat. So the simple way is get this all prepped and ready to go. Wrap it out with some tin foil, because you're going to use it later on, the tin foil. Into the fridge at least 3 hours, probably overnight. Here we are the next morning. Let's get all this tin foil off, and there's our roast. Doesn't look a whole lot different, but that's okay. We'll take our pan, put some parchment paper underneath just to help with cleanup. Alright, looks good. Now the next step. I've got avocado oil. Now why? Well, because later on we're going to have to crank our oven temperature up to 500. And unfortunately, there's no other oil that has a better smoke point than that. So because we are going to go up to 500 eventually, you need that avocado oil. And you don't need to drown it in avocado oil, but you need to give it a good rub so all the spices in that stick. And I'm just trying to be careful because it's got salt and pepper on it, so I don't want that coming off, but it seems to be okay. And back to the avocado oil, I looked up like olive oil and vegetable oil and everything, and none of them have this kind of a smoke point. And the one recipe even said, for sure you can't use olive oil. It just is not, it can't tolerate that high of a temperature. So you don't want to ruin, these are not cheap pieces of meat. So that's okay. I'll go out and get the extra olive oil. Now we need some herbs de Provenance. There's a lot of it in there. You should be able to find it at the grocery store, because I did. But if you can't, it's basically a mix of oregano, parsley, basil, rosemary, thyme. There's a few other ones in there, but that'll get you close to where you need to be. And my packet is probably good for 4 or 5 roasts. There's that much spice in it. So we got the one side. We're gonna spice up all the sides ever so carefully. And it is a little tough to shake the shaker. I'm glad it was on there, because my hands are all full of, my one hand's all full of avocado oil from rubbing up the roast. So I got to be kind of careful. I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to underdo it. Now this goes in a preheated 250 degree oven for 3 to 3 3/4 hours. Because I have such a small roast, I did 3 hours. There we are 3 hours later. Now we need some tin foil. That's why I said we're going to reuse it. We'll loosely cover this up, as I'm doing right here, because we have to sit and let it rest for 45 minutes. And we'll come back when that's ready. Our 45 minutes have passed. Trying to carefully get the tin foil off the roast. There we go. Next step. We need some butter. Thin slices of butter. That's about a half a stick I use, which is like 4 tablespoons. And because the meat is still kind of warm, you can see it's a little melty. I couldn't get that little piece that fell through the grate. It's okay. So this is going to go in the oven at 500 degrees, just 5 to 10 minutes. And I would say don't go over 10 minutes. Now if you really want medium, you can leave it in for up to 15 minutes. And that's going to get you medium, no red, or leave it in a couple minutes more. You're probably going to have shoe leather, but hey, if that's the way you like it, good. And here we are. There is our roast. So unfortunately I had to let this sit for a little while because we're a little late getting dinner. So it ended up being a little closer to medium than I wanted. Still okay. Got my knife out. And let's slice a little piece off the end to see how she looks. And like I said, I used to have a hell of a time cooking these before I learned this method. And this really lets it come out nice. So there you go. It's not super rare, but it's still nice and red. So we'll put that in our serving bowl. And I started cutting the next slice or two, and then, we got to get the bone out. How you ever going to cut with a bone in the way? So I sliced out the bone. It got a lot easier, and you can see how nice and pink that roast is. And that's enough for 3 to 4 people easily. And it looks really good too. So there's how much I got. Quite a bit actually. And the bone you can use for stewing or give it to your dogs. Don't let it go to waste. And there we have it. Prime rib. Yummy. A little bit of potatoes, a little bit of peas, and you got yourself one great meal. Now, the only thing missing is maybe a little bit of beef juice or a little bit of horseradish. Your call. Hey, another great recipe. I hope you'll give it a try. Leave me a comment below, one way or the other. Listen, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell because that'll tell you the next time I upload a video. Feel free to share this and any of my other videos. And thanks for stopping by and watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.